with respect to a certain coherent orbit for Mars. To be clear, nothing about this tells you absolute distances, it's just giving you the shape of the orbit, but even still, he was able to see what no one before him had ever seen, which is that this orbit is not a circle, it's an ellipse. And he was even able to find other neat facts, like how the area that Earth sweeps out as it goes along this orbit is the same for a given time period, no matter where on the ellipse it sits. And once you have a sense for the shape of Earth's orbit, it makes it a lot easier to deduce the orbit of Mars or any other planet.
You can do this in reverse. If you take one fixed point of Mars, you can take measurements from the Earth, and you can now work out the location of Mars.
This angle measurement may not tell you the distance to Mars on one night, but if you take 5 separate nights spaced out by 687 days, meaning you know that Mars is at the same point in space on those 5 different days, then you get these 5 different angles that are more than enough to help you triangulate where Mars is, at least with respect to Earth's orbit. When you do this for many different adjacent time series, you can draw out the exact orbit of Mars over the course of those 687 days.
Einstein once wrote an introduction to a book on astronomy, and I think he mentioned this idea. He called it an idea of pure genius. He needed the data. He needed also, I mean, not just Tycho's data, but Copernicus' data, which came all the way from the Babylonians. So the period of Mars, that was obtained over centuries. But he could put it all together with what we would now call data analysis.
Again, you still don't know the absolute distances. This gives you the shapes of both orbits, and doing something similar, you can get the shapes of all the other planets' orbits relative to Earth's. But to Kepler and his contemporaries, the exact scale of the solar system remained a mystery. It's like they could draw the exact picture, but they didn't know the size of the paper. So from this point on, astronomers were on a hunt to figure out a way to measure any distance they could in the solar system. Because if they could do it precisely, just one distance would be enough to lock everything else into place. In the next part, we'll continue with the interview, and you'll see how this was first done, and how once you finally have an accurate measure. This animation is zooming out by a factor of 10 every 2 seconds. Maybe you've seen things like this before, conveying the mind-boggling scale of our universe. But here, in this video, you and I are going to continue the saga through the many moments of delightful ingenuity throughout human history that led us to first discover how far away objects in the cosmos really are. Appreciating how we know these distances is to me more amazing than the distances themselves. This is part 2 of a collaboration with Terence Tao, and it's okay if you haven't yet seen part 1. Each video should be relatively self-contained, but for context, we left off with Kepler's ingenious method for deducing the shapes of all of the orbits of the planets around the Sun. So people knew what the solar system looked like, but they still didn't have an exact sense of scale. And this left astronomers hungry to measure any distance that they could in this system, like maybe how far away a given planet is from Earth at a given moment, since that would be enough to lock everything else into place. Now, I'll admit, while I had vaguely learned about how this was done before, I definitely had not appreciated the cleverness of the details.
You could measure distances to the planets, like Venus, take 2 measurements on different sides of the Earth. Around the time of Captain Cook, when they were traveling to discover Australia and so forth. Part of the reason for this was a scientific mission. I mean, they wanted to know the distance to Venus and Mars and so forth. They wanted people to take precise measurements, say one in Greenwich in the UK and one somewhere in the Southern Hemisphere, at exactly the same time of the same object.
The key idea here is that as you sail down to the southern hemisphere and you observe a given object up in the sky, its position in the sky, say relative to the background constellations, will appear to shift up as the angle of your line of sight slowly changes with your position. We call this parallax.
It is the same parallax that we use with binocular vision. Our eyes are a certain distance apart, and so we can determine depth for any distance that's not too much larger than the distance between our eyes. It's just that now we figured out how to make 2 eyeballs on different sides of the Earth.
Now, if you want to turn this into a measurement, you first need to understand this line right here, connecting the 2 different observation points, both its distance and its direction. Because people knew the size of the Earth, and they could tell where they were on the Earth, that would be taken care of. Then the hard part is for the first observer to take a precise enough measurement of the viewing angle to this object. They need to deduce this angle here, and for the second observer to do likewise. If you can do that, you have a triangle where you know all 3 of the angles, and you also know one of the side lengths. This means with just a little bit of trigonometry, you can figure out any other side length, which for example tells you how far away this object is from one of the observers. Now the way I'm drawing it here, it makes it look almost easy, but for the real world measurement, you have to keep in mind just how far away everything is. If we zoom out so that they're both looking at something as far away as the moon, it would look something like this. But the moon, cosmologically speaking, is really quite close. So even if both of them are looking at the nearest planet, Venus, when it is at its absolute closest to Earth, it's around 39 million kilometers away, which is over 6,000 times the radius of the Earth. So zooming back into those two observers, even if they were as far away as you could get them, one at the top of the Earth and another at the bottom of the Earth, these two lines of sight would be almost parallel. If you work out the little bit of trigonometry, if they're both looking at Venus at its absolute closest point, the difference in angle between these two lines is about 1 arc minute, which is 1/60th of a degree. So, if this is going to work, your measurements have to be extremely precise, and you have to be absolutely sure that both observers are really looking at the same thing at the same moment.
Now, at the time, clocks were not good enough that they could actually just say, at this specific time, make this measurement. Also, you're not guaranteed that you can even find the planet and so forth. But there are these transits. There's this thing called the transit of Venus. Sometimes Venus travels along the sun. And so you can just time exactly when Venus hits the edge of the sun.
This is the part I had not appreciated, in particular how sensitive everything really is. So up in the northern hemisphere, if you're watching the transit of Venus, maybe it looks something like this. And far away at some point down in the southern hemisphere, due to parallax, Venus would appear higher up. And you essentially want to know exactly how much higher up. Now, this animation is greatly exaggerating the difference. In reality, the two would look much, much more similar, more like this. And remember, there was no photography, so it's not like they could take pictures and closely compare them. When you look at the sun up in the sky, it spans around 32 arc minutes of viewing angle, and this is something they would have been able to measure. The deviation in viewing angle to Venus for these two observations would be a fraction of an arc minute. So to measure exactly what that fraction was, each observer would not try to directly describe where it was. Instead, they would measure the duration of the transit, how long it takes from the moment that Venus's silhouette first appears on the disk to the moment that it leaves. Critically, they also
I found out how to repair the plate carrier. Leather sewing kit. Yeah.
would have known how fast Venus and the Sun are moving through the sky at this time, and this would let them calculate how long it should take Venus's apparent position to traverse the distance of, say, one sun diameter. It turns out to be around 7 hours. I won't dwell too much on the details for how to calculate this, but at a high level, if you think about Earth and Venus both orbiting the Sun, the angle of this line of sight right here, from Earth through Venus, is something they would have understood well, since thanks to Kepler, they knew the relative shapes of the orbits and how long it takes each planet to go around the Sun. So in principle, they could calculate how long it should take for this line to scan over those 32 arc minutes in the sky that the Sun occupied. The point is that by measuring the durations of the transit from these two different...
that are like 10 times the size of our sun? Have you learned about the sun that's like the sun's like 10 times the size of our sun? Yeah. Like the ones that are green, like fucking, I don't know if one was green, yellow, or orange. What the fuck is a protostalk? Yeah. What's our sun? What's... By the way, if Mercury wasn't, Mercury's a gas planet, right? If Mercury wasn't a gas planet, how long can you survive on Mercury? Yeah. Surely at least a good little bit. Alright. Normal spacesuit. Is it because of the sun pressure? Or like the sun, I mean heat. (180°C). Damn, nigga.
Locations that could tell you the lengths of these two lines drawn across the sun's disk. These are very similar, but measurably different. And with a little bit of circle geometry, the lengths of those lines will tell you how far apart they are, that fraction of an arc minute separating the two observations. And then this, in turn, from everything that we discussed before, lets you deduce how far away Venus is in terms of the distance between those observers. That is just so clever to me. It was Edmund Halley who originally came up with this idea, but sadly he didn't live long enough to see it come to fruition. Before moving on, I simply have to tell you the story of Guillaume Le Gentil. He was another explorer also tasked with making one of these measurements for the transit of Venus. Specifically, he was going for the one in 1761, but he was delayed by the 7 Years' War and still at sea when the transit happened, so he was unable to make the measurement. Now, the next transit of Venus was going to be 8 years later, but after that, it wouldn't be for another 105 years. So he decided to extend his journey, do a bunch of other explorer things, and catch the next one. And by 1769, he was all set up in the Philippines, ready to go. But on that day, it was cloudy, so he couldn't see anything. Once he finally got back to France, he found that he had been declared dead, his wife had remarried, and his relatives had all plundered his estate. Now remember, the reason people cared so much was that having this one measurement was enough to lock in place the scale of the whole solar system. So once they had it, they would automatically know every other distance involved.
This was important actually because you need to do this in order to work out the distance to the sun. The distance to the sun is the most important rung of the ladder. It's called the astronomical unit. Almost everything beyond the solar system is measured in terms of the astronomical unit. And so they really needed really accurate estimates.
Given what we just saw, you might be able to guess how you can use this astronomical unit to measure the distance to nearby stars. But before we get to that, there's actually one more clever deduction that you can make once you know this distance, a little closer to home, and incredibly important for physics.
Romer was measuring Jupiter, and Jupiter has a small moon called Io. Io orbits Jupiter really, really fast because it's really close to Jupiter. Our moon takes 28 days to go around the Earth. Io takes 42 hours.
That's whipping.
Yeah, it's extremely fast. If you observe Jupiter on a telescope, you see Io, which is just this white dot, go in, behind Jupiter's shadow, and then out, in, out, in, out.
Romer was marking down one precise moment for each one of these cycles. You see, Io goes dark when it falls into Jupiter's shadow, which it does every cycle because Jupiter is just so big. As it emerges, it becomes bright again. Watching it through a telescope, night after night, you can mark the exact time that it pops back into view. And if you go out with a telescope and you do this a whole bunch, what you'll notice is that these happen in 42-hour increments.
Like clockwork, except that it wasn't clockwork. So Romer was observing Io go back and forth for months. And he observed that at different times of the year, Io was ahead of schedule, Io was behind schedule. So, get into a picture. Earth goes on the sun, Jupiter also goes on the sun. Yeah. So when you're measuring the orbit of Io, it was 20 minutes ahead of 20 minutes earlier, when the Earth was on the same side as Jupiter. Then when the Earth was on the opposite side of Jupiter, it took 20 minutes longer. There was a delay in the orbit. So he measured this after some very precise calculations. And Huygens realized that the reason for this is because light was taking 20 minutes to traverse this extra distance. So 2 astronomical units is traversed in about 20 minutes.
That's so clever.
Yeah.
Historically, this was all before the measurement to Venus, so at that time they didn't actually know the true astronomical unit. So their estimates for the speed of light frankly don't look that impressive if you see them. But at that time, it was not even obvious that light had a speed. For most experiments you could do down on Earth at that time, it just looks instantaneous. But at astronomical scales, it's actually really slow. And this very clever way to measure its speed by observing Io, imprecise though it was, laid the groundwork for more precise experiments down on Earth, once people had at least a rough sense of how fast it really was. I also really like this because it comes back around to the distance ladder. These days, with technology, the more accurate way that we measure the distances to planets like Venus is not with parallax, but using radar. But this, of course, relies on knowing the speed of light. And now, let's finally leave our solar system and measure the nearby stars. Again, you can use parallax. It's essentially identical reasoning for how we got the distance to Venus, only this time the 2 observation points are not opposite sides of the Earth, they're opposite sides of Earth's orbit. That is, you measure the star at one time of the year, and then you wait 6 more months for the Earth to be on the other side of the Sun, make another measurement, and compare the 2 angles. Again, for demonstration purposes, I'll be drawing this star unrealistically close. In principle, over the course of 6 months, the line of sight from the Earth to a star slowly changes angle, so the position of that star in the sky should slowly drift over those months. And it's very subtle, but you can actually see this in practice. This right here is a time-lapse of a very zoomed-in view for our nearest neighbor, Proxima Centauri, taken over 6 months. And you can see that over that time, it does gently drift with respect to the background stars. But as before, the mind-blowing part...
How did Venus get its rings? Oh. Wait, which one is it again? I can't remember. Uranus? Mercury? Mercury. Wait, Saturn. Yeah. Yeah, how did Saturn get its ring? Debris? Mm. From humans or... Hmm. Doesn't Earth have like a little tiny ass ring full of space junk? But doesn't it all eventually fall down? Well, your shit is so really delayed. Is it like how you see it in the movies? Like the space movies, is it like how you see in like the movies? Like how you see the space junk and shit? Bro, you know how I told you my girlfriend blocked me? She still has me fucking blocked. All I said was chicken butt. That's the only thing I said. Women are special. Drew's an unk. Drew's an unk. The nigga unk. Where the fuck the color at? Sweet boy, I'm a Bama nigga. Mm. Didn't you go to that high school? I don't know why you have them weird ass fucking ovals and shit. Yeah, the stadium. Yeah. Yeah, like, I don't know why you have that, like, fucking concrete shit around, like, the grass and shit. Why the fuck you just don't run on grass? I don't know, why the fuck you just don't run on grass? Drew, you know how you're not allowed to bring guns to school? You know how you're not allowed to bring guns to school? I always bring my 2 guns to school. Ah. You know what I mean?
Is to appreciate just how subtle the
boy.
effect is and therefore how impressive it is that people were able to use this for calculation back in the 19th century. Let's actually work out the math here. Suppose a star is a given distance d away, and to make everything easy, let's assume it's perpendicular to this connecting line between our two observation points.
Yeah. Get off siege? Alright. Ah. I thought you said I don't have siege anymore, bruh. Done. I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even have fucking. Bruh, I don't even have siege, nigga. I don't even have siege, bro. I don't know what the fucking going on about. Oh, I don't even have siege, bro. I'm totally not loading in siege right now. Totally. I'm totally not loading in siege right now. Yeah, definitely not. I don't even have siege, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. Fuck's about. Hey, how many fucking uniform skins do you have? Siege. More than 300. More than 168. Let's do the forgot password thing. Uh. Yeah. Wait, go to your locker. Go to your locker real quick. Locker on Siege. Yeah, and how many uniforms? Uniforms. Or all together? Yeah, you definitely have way more things than me. I got 168 and 176 headgears. I've got 42 operator portraits. 11 victory celebrations. What? What? No, nigga, my internet is out. I'm not even close to my internet. Fuck you on like 53 ping. Bullshit. No, it is not, sir. You banned it yourself that one time. Fucking idiot. I'm not even gonna play Clash. You already know I'm gonna ban. You got pressed last time. The rest of the time I banned Vigil.
We need to locate a bomb.
You know what I play with? Troll.
10 seconds to go. 5 seconds before insertion. A bomb must be located and defused. Op 4 eliminated.
Puta madre, pendejo, cabrón. I was just on 48 FPS. Yeah, my PlayStation's at like 10,000. The fuck up. EPU.
Secure the area. Keep the bombs protected. 10 seconds left. 5 seconds. You must protect your bombs from being defused by Op 4.
Do you know what a GPS is? Sure. Do you know what a GPS is? Yes. Yeah. It stands for good porn slot.
Mission failed. All friendlies were eliminated.
How is my top pick fucking dog?
We need to locate a bomb.
I don't even play dog.
10 seconds to go. Be advised your drone has located a bomb. 5 seconds to go. You've located a bomb. Make your way to its location.
favor and run Oryx.
Secure the area. Keep the bombs protected.
Fuck is a mouse flip?
10 seconds left.
What is a mouse flip?
5
Like you
seconds
flip
and
your
counting.
mouse or something?
Bomb locations are secure.
Why the fuck would you want to flip your mouse?
A bomb has been located.
No!
Op 4
I did it too late.
Successful.
Dre, you know if like you do the breach thing when Oryx runs at you, it'll stop Oryx from fucking hitting you. Like you know how Blackbeard has that breach thing? If you like do that at the same time as Oryx runs at you, he won't knock you over. Yeah, so I saw it on YouTube.
Need to use your drone to locate a bomb. Insertion in 10 seconds. 5 seconds to insertion. Your mission is to locate and defuse a bomb. Op 4 eliminated.
By the way, Drew, if you die to this strat I'm about to do, you are the most dog shit ass nigger in this game.
Secure the bombs. Ten seconds. 5 minutes left. Keep an eye out for Op 4 attempting to defuse your bombs. Op 4 eliminated. Mission successful.
At least I hit you. Yeah, I did. No, I hit you. On my screen, I hit you.
We need to locate a bomb. Ten seconds to insertion. 5 seconds before insertion. Your mission is to locate and defuse a bomb.
Sit your motherfucking ass down. Fuck you too, nigga.
Secure the bombs.
She's only a baby, nigga.
10 seconds. 5 seconds left.
I don't even play Sims.
Keep an eye out for Op 4 attempting to defuse
I
your
don't even
bomb.
have a... Nuts! Hey, anyone but Chop, nigga. Come on now. Anybody but Chop. Maybe get Lamar out of here. That nigga like a dog. Well, I picked the wrong gun for this character, so.
All friendlies were eliminated. Mission failure.
So why the fuck would you swing me in the first place, nigga? What the fuck you think you is, huh? Who the fuck you think you is, nigga?
We need to locate a bomb.
So we're never gonna talk about that 1v1 I won against you?
Insertion. 5 seconds before insertion.
Hey nigga, I'm on 300 ping. And what ping?
Your mission is to
On
locate
here.
and defuse a bomb. Bomb has been located.
Plant what? What are you planting?
Diffuser is active. Protected at all costs.
Como puta madre, pente! What the fuck? I was behind the wall. Shut up, nigga. Hey, they got a name for your type, and it's nigga. Nigga. Shut up, nigga. Fucking nigger.
Protect the bombs.
Nigger. 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 You go to the grr.
Down to 10
Nigger.
seconds.
Can't forget the grr.
5 seconds and
Hey,
counting.
you're fucking talking to nigga. I don't wanna catch these fucking hands.
Bomb location secure.
The hands in your mouth, pussy. Fat ass nigga. freakware with the SMG-11. Don't worry. SMG-11 my thing, nigga. SMG-11 my thing, not your thing, nigga. Alright, you just mad because the SMG-11 my thing, not your
We
thing.
need to locate a
Alright,
bomb.
meet me around the fucking corner at the school, nigga. You telling me to sip on some Walker?
10 seconds.
Oh, then I'm what? I'm a pussy? Yeah, hell yeah,
5
that's my
seconds
girl.
to insertion. You must locate
No,
and
I said
defuse a
your
bomb.
mouth. Not mine. Yours. Yeah, yours. This is something you're never gonna expect.
All friendlies have been eliminated.
I crawled all the way from where I was. Hey, don't hate the player, don't hate the game. Yeah, I know, right? I'm so good at this game.
Secure the bombs.
I already have. Tough one with your mother.
10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds
Yep.
to insertion.
Don't worry, your stepdad was in there too.
Keep an eye out for Op 4 attempting to defuse your bomb.
Can't forget the old head. I didn't want your mom, I wanted that guy, you know me. Niggas, am I right?
Op 4 found a bomb. You must defend it. Friendly's victorious. Hostiles eliminated.
I don't know how the fuck he killed me. I was behind a fucking wall on my screen. No. Fucking brick wall, nigga. Yeah. No, maybe because you got fucking better frames per second than me, nigga.
Need to use your drone to locate a bomb.
The fuck you do? I'm 60 frames. What's your frames at, huh? Huh? Huh?
10 seconds.
Huh? 900.
5 seconds to insertion. Your mission is to locate and defuse a bomb.
Fuck, you want me to work at fucking McDonald's? I ain't putting no fries in the bag. Fuck out of here. Where the fuck you at? Arrrr.
Bomb has been located. Op
Puta
4
madre,
eliminated.
pendejo,
Friendly mission
cabrón.
successful.
Motherfucker, no. Puta madre. Shut up, nigga. By the way, why did they even remove cooking grenades? Why did they even remove cooking grenades? Oh, they're bitching about it not being in the game.
Secure the bombs.
Oh yeah, you know what audience they're bringing? Fucking Fortnite sweats, nigga.
Down to 5 seconds. Keep an eye out for Op 4 attempting to defuse your bombs.
The rank I deserve is at least the silver. No, actually, I deserve fucking damn.
Op 4 located a mission critical. Bomb diffuser activated. Diffuser located. Disable it. Disable the bomb diffuser. Good work. Mission successful.
You got lucky. Yeah. I slammed you. By the way, where the fuck do they put their guns? Up their ass or something?
What the Sigma boy? Yeah,
Hello?
I'm not playing anything. I'm just looking at. I'm watching YouTube on my laptop.
Yeah, 1v1 me, pussy. 1v1 me, pussy. Yeah, you fat piece of shit.
I wasn't even driving. You fat piece of bacon.
What did I do? You know, am I gonna want to pick on?
Can you share your screen?
Bro, if you didn't duck, I would have blew your fucking head off. You ducked as soon as I shot the bullet.